Welcome to this episode of our podcast, Fear Less, Do More. Today I'm joined by Jon Dudgeon and Dave Gibson from Blu Sky Accountants. You might be surprised to see an accountant on a podcast which is about fearlessness. But Dave and Jon have demonstrated that you can be fearless in an environment that is perhaps viewed as being a bit boring. So I'm really looking forward to talking to them today about how they set up the business, how they disrupted the accountancy market, and how they've worked together over the last 16 years. Welcome, Jon and Dave. Great to have you here this morning.
Lovely to be here.
I was delighted you were coming because whenever you tell anybody that you're a lawyer, you can just see the sort of, I think the only profession that gets probably a deeper sigh is accountancy. But why is that? Why do you think people are turned off by accountancy?
I tend to tell people I'm an astronaut now, and that seems to move them on. I think the impression people have is still kind of the old-fashioned, they're in suits talking boring language that I don't understand, and it's all very dry and dusty. There's less of that around these days.
I think, like, traditionally it's quite an aloof profession as well, which can be quite off-putting. So maybe it's a bit of getting back at accountants.
And that's really, I suppose that's where Blu Sky came about, isn't it? You're 16 years old now. Yeah. Just had a celebration anyway for a big birthday. So congratulations on that. So where did it all start then, all those years ago?
Well, myself and Dave met 17 years ago, I would say, and I just moved back to the northeast at that point. And I would say personally, I'm quite I can't even say the
Entrepreneur.
Word. Entrepreneur. Thank you, Dave. This is why we work well. This is why we work well together.
I can see the dynamic already.
But I didn't really have any sort of bright ideas, and at that point, I was really intrigued by how the SME world was happening, and I could see a big opportunity personally for supporting and helping SME businesses, but I didn't really know how to do that. And I went along to, I think it was quite a few different Business Link, if you remember Business Link back then, and met various coaches, and they introduced us to Dave, who just started as a sole trader, and we got on really well, didn't we?
Yeah, very first meeting. So I'll come down to qualification stuff in a minute. I started as a sole trader. I'm not a qualified accountant, so my background was in business analysis and project management. Right. But that meant 20 years designing and implementing financial systems, working with and for accountants and having accountants working for me. And I'd kind of wanted to leave the corporate world for a number of reasons, like many people do. And I thought, what can I do? I'll set up an accountancy practice. It can't be that difficult, can it? But I soon realised that actually it could be. I was looking for somebody who could really, really help shoulder the load and had some different skills and experiences and knowledge to what I had. And Jon walked in through the door at that exact moment.
Oh, so it's destiny.
It was. I think, when we first met, it's really daunting starting a business, and I was in a really good role in a large corporate environment, and there was a bit I remember my dad saying to us, what the heck are you doing? Why are you leaving that behind? So it was quite a daunting decision. And when I met Dave's 15 years more experienced than me, and I remember Dave saying,
very tactful.
Yeah. But I remember Dave saying, you only get experience with time, and Dave had that extra experience that gave me the confidence to start the business together.
And I think that experience as well, but what I've found, being probably nearer Dave's age than your age, is that over time you realise that things are rarely a complete disaster.
Yeah.
And even if you give someone a go and it doesn't work out, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world. You're going to be, destitute and rejected by society or those sort of things. So I think it gives you that inner confidence in a way.
The roles that we have now within the business call for consistency. You have to be the same person every day. And that comes from, you don't get too excited when you have a good day and don't get too down when you have a bad day. Just tread the level, absolutely.
And I remember the first time Dave said that to us, and I was like, oh my God, that sounds so dull.
You'd think an accountant would say that, wouldn't you?
Yeah. And then 5 years later, I thought, yeah, that's the way to get through running a small business, I think.
How do you do that though? Because it is, I mean, when you're running any business, not just a small business, it is ups and downs, it's highs and lows. How do you keep that consistency?
Self-control, I think, which works to varying degrees as well. You know, we're all human, we're all going to have a bad day and that, and certainly I think the hybrid working that we've got now is helpful, because if you're going to have a really bad day and be really grumpy, then just keep yourself away from everybody. Don't inflict that on everybody else. But it's always about the long game. So where do you want to be? And you're working on it, and you know not everything's going to work. Like you say, there's going to be ups and downs, and if it gets so bad, you can just stop and look backwards a little bit and think, well, how far have we progressed over the last year? Look back down the mountain, as Jon says, and you can always go like, yeah, we've moved on.
I mean, so I think when you first set up, I mean, we're sitting here now, you're in jeans, you know, if this had been 16, 15 years ago, accountants and lawyers would have been sitting in suits with ties on. So one of my biggest sort of memories is when you set up, you did something different, which was nobody wore a suit and everybody was in hoodies. And you looked different. Was that a purposeful thing at the time? Did you say, right, we're going to have a physical demonstration of how we're going to be different?
I think there's a little bit of that, and a little bit about I don't like wearing suits, so and it's our business, we can wear what we want. So there we go. And it was always about building relationships with people, and not just about the numbers. So the numbers are a means to an end, not the end in itself. It's about building relationships with people and helping them look forward. And a suit is a barrier sometimes, so it does help to take that away. But also it was really helpful because, like, whoopee, you don't have to wear a tie anymore as well. And we in the early days, we got a group of clients together around the table and to kind of work out what it is that they wanted. And one of the questions was, you sometimes see us knocking around in jeans and that. Is that a problem? And the best response I can remember, I won't give you the full response because there's a naughty word in it, but yeah, we don't care if you wear tutus as long as you get the job done right. I thought, right, brilliant. Well, we won't wear tutus, but you know, that gave us kind of carte blanche to wear jeans.
I think right at the start, I think on day one, we both did turn up with a suit on.
Did you?
Yeah, I think, and
no ties.
I just think
no ties on.
Yeah.
It felt like you should wear a suit. You're an accountant. It's almost like your disguise, or and for me, it always felt like unnecessary and uncomfortable. And then when we were working with clients, it felt weird because often the client would wear a suit to come and see us.
Yeah.
And then, you know, they're not wearing, those guys aren't wearing suits day to day. So yeah, as Dave was saying, it was like, for me as well, I felt I was unleashed as well.
Yeah.
And we were able to sort of express ourselves as a business more easily, and to work with clients in a much more collaborative way. That's how it felt. And then it was really cool because we were going out and networking, and people were like, "Oh, you're the accountants in jeans." And suddenly it was like, oh, we joined the dot up that actually our personality as a firm was being remembered, and it was starting to form a brand around us.
Moving on from that, the thing that did get intentional was when we introduced hoodies, branded hoodies. And there was still a lot of legal firms and accountants in particular wearing suits at the time. And we went not just from wearing jeans, but we had branded hoodies and everybody went out with them. And we started giving them to clients, and it just ran away, didn't it? We had like pictures coming from all over the world of somebody in a Blu Sky hoodie going on. And there's lots of firms kind of followed in our footsteps there now.
I can remember debating hoodies with you though, because you were quite against hoodies.
Yeah.
You know?
What's about a hoodie?
It's just like, yeah.
You thought you were going to get mugged if I came into the office with a hoodie on.
So I mean, now you've got you because I think partly because of COVID, things have changed a lot. Things have relaxed a lot. The definition around what professional is or isn't has sort of become a bit more blurred. Do you regret that? Do you think, actually, I wish we still stood out? I wish we were the only people in the rooms in our hoodies and our jeans?
I was reflecting on this the other day, actually, and COVID is, people, it's 4 years ago, but still in people's mind. And actually going into COVID, we were still quite unique.
Yeah.
And coming out of COVID, it was almost like, oh. I remember going to the an accountant exhibition. It was at Tottenham Hotspur's football ground.
Yeah.
And I walked in and I was like, oh, there's only 3 people in this room in a suit. And that was a bit of a realization that actually we're going to have to work a little bit harder again to be unique. But at the same time, I don't think it's all about kind of how you physically look. I think your behavior, your culture, your team, and your ambition of where you want to get to, that's ultimately, it's the whole jigsaw that helps you stand out and move forward as well. Yeah.
So in terms of the business now, what's the sort of unique selling point of the business now?
We were chatting about this in the car. Our culture, and I don't know how to express it and describe it, but that's the thing, if it is a thing, that's what we hear from clients, it's what we hear from the team. Kim Mathieu, when she joined us in January, she walked into the office and she met us all and she said, it doesn't feel like an accountant's practice. Kim's a really good example. She worked in the fashion industry for Jimmy Choo, completely different. She said she was embarrassed to tell her friends that she was working for an accountant's practice. And the way she described it was, our culture is what makes us completely different. And you have to sort of come into the team and meet the team and work with us to really kind of feel that and embrace us.
I think you can see it outside, not just as people who are working in your team, but, somebody who sort of works alongside you or, and observes what you're doing. I think the thing that's always struck me is around your openness. So you're open to suggestions. You're not, it's not that you've created a rigid structure of this is the Blu Sky way and this is the way we're going to do it. It's about that sort of growth. I know everybody uses the word growth mindset, but, it's that, well, we're open to other stuff. So I'll give you an example. I spoke to one of your team members last week, and they are working remotely in Europe. Sort of combining work and home, work and travel, and working out of co-working spaces wherever they happen to stop. There's not many businesses, never mind an accountancy practice, where that would be acceptable. Yeah. But you've obviously embraced that to support that person. Yeah.
And it's about trust. Well, we always said, if you don't trust your employees, why are you employing them? Kind of thing. But that individual's been with us a long time now. We absolutely trust him.
I think people are conditioned though, aren't they? People are conditioned to the sort of master-servant relationship between them and their bosses. And you've obviously changed that dynamic. Has that been a sort of, do you have to work at that? Or is it something that is just because of your personalities and the dynamic between you two, it's come naturally?
No, you've got to work at it. I talk about there's a parent-child relationship and there's an adult-adult relationship, and we want that second one. Sometimes you have to work at that second one as well. And, right and proper that people do look to us for direction sometimes, but we really try and encourage people to, don't come to us with a problem, come to us with a solution. We might have a different opinion on it, but at least we've got something to kind of talk around there. I
think sort of early on in my career, I used to think leadership was where you were at the front and everyone was kind of following you and you were trailblazing, and that is completely the opposite of how my philosophy and Dave's philosophy of how to lead Blu Sky. We're in the middle of the team. We set the agenda and sort of the guidance, but ultimately we want people to thrive and take the responsibility and the accountability and make some mistakes and learn from them and kind of move forward.
You're obviously doing the right thing because the business is growing. You've got people all over the country now. Is that what's the plans for the business? Are you thinking that's the way you'll go?
Going back to day one, I think our clients, our team were all within sort of 5-10 miles of the office, and to fast forward 15-16 years, and and to have team members all over the country, but clients all over the country as well. That was the interesting sort of conundrum that we always had, was the team were in the Northeast, but our clients were starting to work with us from all over the place. And, you know, we have a lot of clients who work in co-working spaces around Europe. So you start questioning, well, why does our team need to be within 5 miles of the office? Of course they don't need to be. So again, when the opportunity was there to hire our first remote person, who I think lived in North London, we said yes, let's do it. It's gonna work, and then that just kind of spread out. I think the learning now from working in that way wholly for probably half a decade is, I think you need to have a balance for a practice like ours to maintain the sort of the culture. The office is starting to come back to life. We did go full hog, and it was kind of, everyone was working from home, and coming into the office was a rarity. Now we're trying to get back to being a place that people belong to as well, and want to
yeah, it's the one thing. It's making the office a place where people want to come into the office, and it's kind of moving forward in that way.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big trend at the moment, isn't there, to, you know, get people back into the office, and, you know, my view on that is that there's got to be a reason, and it's not about having a nice building or, you know, putting on pizzas or any of that sort of stuff. It's about that sense of community and what you get out of being with your team members. And if the team dynamic doesn't work and people don't enjoy spending time together, they're not going to come into the office.
Creativity is not a word you probably want to associate with your accountants, but when the team comes together, you can feel the innovation. You know, we all talk about 1% improvements around process or around learning or whatever it is, and that 1% happens much quicker when people come together face to face. And I think that then spreads across your culture, and then spreads out to the team who are potentially, you know, wherever they're working from as well.
It's a good laugh in the office as well when everybody's there, or when, you know, the northern half of the team are in there as well. There's a buzz around that's really encouraging. And
you've just had all the team together for a big shebang to celebrate your birthday, which sounded like it was quite a spectacular event.
It was different.
Yeah, I think, again, going back to day one, if we'd said we were celebrating with 15's birthday party in the way we did, we would have been like, no way. But yeah, it was, you know, we are, from meeting up in the car park at the start of it, everyone just got together and you could just feel the buzz coming. And yeah, we did some cool stuff. The whole idea was to make it memorable for the right reasons. Maybe take people out of their comfort zone, not into their stress zone, stretch them a little bit, some new experiences, get to know each other a lot better, and reflect on where the practice had come from and was going to. So we started, we were talking beforehand, and every time we kind of go through what we did, if you weren't there, it's kind of the look of what? We did that in a work setting. But yeah, we started off and we did some yoga, some breath work. We did some coaching exercises. We did a fire ritual. We had a DJ. We had musicians. We did a sound bath.
Sound bath.
Sound bath. What's that?
It's very relaxing.
It's quite amazing. So it involves loads of different musical instruments. So you start off, you go in, you lie on your back, you cover yourself, make yourself really comfortable. You've got a face mask on, and then the only sense that's in play is your ears.
Yeah, right.
Pretty much.
So it's like the guys just doing their little tinkling noises and the little drum things and that. We know which member of the team was snoring.
Snoring, well. yeah. There was snoring, there was giggling, there was all people behave in different ways. But yeah, great experience. And to be honest, that experience, I think, out of everything we did, was the one where people members of the team are like, oh, we want to do that again, and we're in our own time. And embrace it. So
is it for sort of relaxation and just mindfulness?
Yeah. Mindfulness is probably sums up the whole 2 days.
Yeah.
But
well, it's quite difficult to get, isn't it? Mindfulness. I've always found it really difficult. You know, meditation and things, when you're busy professionals and you're working, for clients, and your brain's constantly going, trying to be creative, doing all of that sort of stuff, to then take all that away and just have quiet.
We try and do that on a day-to-day basis. John's been a leading exponent of years of going for walk-in meetings, and just, we're so lucky to live along the coast, just to, walk and chat along the coast for an hour or two is just so helpful in helping your kind of mind move around the way it needs to.
And you just become a BCorp, as have we, about the same time, actually. I think it's within that.
You beat us by about 2 or 3 days or something like that. Yeah.
The Northeast has taken off.
It is. I know there's more. I think it's 20 now, aren't there? So, which is brilliant. Obviously, everybody has their own reason for going into that. Why did you decide that BCorp was the right thing for Blu Sky? We
had a drive to have, a very decent and fair ESG strategy. Even before we knew what ESG was, we've always wanted to do things right, and do the right thing. So, back in, talking 7 or 8 years ago, we wanted to measure our carbon footprint, and that was impossible back then. People come around quoting you like £100,000 and things like that, and like, no way. No, but we know some of the things we can do. So it was about replacing the plastic cups by the water cooler with, go and get a glass or a mug or something and just make sure that stuff does go in the recycling bin, just little things like that. Use public transport when you can. But we're kind of looking for ways to get better around that. And when the Good Business Charter launched, which would have been 3 or 4 years ago, we sent in our application the day it launched to join that. It was actually the day after that they accepted us, so we didn't join on the first day. But we've been exponents to them, and they have pretty well the same principles as BCorp, just written in, to my mind, clearer English manner. But from then, they then introduced us to an organisation called Net Zero Now, who developed kind of a carbon footprint model for hospitality and wanted to do one for professional services. So we were a pilot place for them, and we kind of mentioned in their documentation around that, and that helps us measure our carbon footprint. So sometime in the next 12 or 18 months, let's say we should be certified carbon neutral. But having done all that and moved it on, like I'd never heard of BCorp, and John kind of flagged it up and said, here's this other organisation, and look what that's about. And I thought, well, that absolutely totally fits in with what we want to be.
Just popping in to say, if you are enjoying the conversation so far and want to make sure you keep up to date with other episodes, then please hit follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. Let's jump back into the conversation now.
Anyway, so it was a drive to, I suppose, establish more credibility around that, but also with the knowledge that as time goes in, there'll be more and more need for clients to prove their own strategies in this area with, contracts and supply chain analysis and that kind of thing. I thought, well, it can, A, it'll help us understand what we want to be, B, it'll help us with the team internally, but C, it'll also help our clients as well in the future in these areas. So it's just right.
I think as we went through the whole application process, at the start it was like, this is who we are. We know it feels right. We want to do the right things for the right reasons and in the right way. We've always wanted to do that. And going through the accreditation process, we realised that there was some areas where we're really strong, which is, I suppose, the areas that Blu Sky have a really immediate impact on day to day. So kind of around the governance, the community, your people and your team. What we want to do going forward is actually educate and have a wider impact on our suppliers, on our clients, who we're working with. And I think that's the essence of BCorp for me. It's not. It's actually being able to be an activist as a business, and I think that's really important if you're going to make a positive impact and make a change as a business and as a community.
I don't know about you, since we were certified. The question I get asked by people all the time is, but do you not need to sack off loads of your clients? Do you not lose loads of your clients as a result of it? I mean, I know what the answer is for my organisation, but what's your experience been of that in terms of picking and choosing who you want to work with?
I think going forward, we have a really clear idea who we don't want to work with, and currently we don't have many of those clients anyway. It's I think, I mean, client-wise, we've got about 300 clients at any point in time, and we're driven by relationship both ways. It's got to work to get the best out of our service offering and how we support clients. And if your values and the way you're working are totally misaligned, then that relationship's not going to last very long either way.
No, I mean, I think that's the same as us. I mean, we looked at it and we put together an ethical client policy. So actually what it did was it helped us to clarify what we actually meant, because you always have a bit of a gut feeling about people as well, don't you? About, I'm not sure about them. But if you've now got a framework and a point of reference that's holding you to account. So I see it as a positive thing, but I have heard pushback from people saying they're not going to do it because they would have to sack off particular clients.
Don't think it's even crossed our minds to think like that. No.
So something a bit different. So you two as a duo in the business, you're obviously very different. You met by chance, were introduced at one point. How's that been? The sort of the marriage that you've had through Blu Sky's business.
We've bickered once or twice. It's fair to say. It's always worked because we've always had the same values and wanted the same outcomes, and it's so the bickering's about how you get there, not where you want to be. And I think we've got and had different strengths, and we've both kind of bowed down to that as time has gone on. Of course, we've gone from a twosome to a threesome as well in the last 3 years or so. So Steve Robinson joined as a majority shareholder, and it's fair to say now that Jon and Steve are now the shareholders there. So they bought me out fairly recently there as well. So I'm still knocking around as chairman for the foreseeable future. But it's the younger generations now coming through, and Jon's perfectly placed in the middle of me and Steve. So Steve is 15 years younger than Jon now, and when he joined us, 8 years ago now, Steve came along. It is just a Duracell battery, just fizzing with energy. But I think he was like the youngest 40-year-old I ever met as well at the time, and he's not really changed, has he?
Yeah, it's quite interesting because at one point I was running at 1,000 miles an hour, and Dave was kind of slowing us down and putting some realism around things, and that role has kind of changed now. I've got Steve running at 1,000 miles an hour saying, "Whoa, calm down," without taking away his enthusiasm and passionate's an overused word, but for the business, But
that's one of the trickiest things when you have your own business is sort in succession. So that's great because you've got that ladder sort of already created there.
We tend to look a number of years ahead, and it started actually when we met. Obviously there's an age difference between us. It was pretty obvious I was probably going to be the first one out of the business at some stage. Well, it was going to happen, so let's work out how to make that happen.
I think one of our strengths is being able to look forward and to work on a strategy and work on a plan. We do that day in, day out with our clients. So, why wouldn't you do it on your own business? Someone said to us the other day, "God, you've been really lucky how that's worked out." And I was kind of like, well, I don't think there was much luck in it. And we've always, we've planned for the future. Dave was always going to leave before I did. So it was probably in our minds from day one that we'd get there eventually.
And what advice would you have for somebody who, yesterday had that chance meeting and thinks, maybe we could do something together. Going into business for somebody who you don't know, what advice would you give?
I think for me, I've seen so many partnerships fail. It's and it is scary. And you see the enthusiasm on day one, and everyone, we're going for the same things. We actually, we met. We were pretty cautious about each other for 9 months. I came in and did a good old-fashioned audit on Dave.
He did. He gave up his 2 weeks holiday. He came and worked for free for a fortnight, as well as part and parcel of that. But we did some real proper due diligence on each other from a work point of view, from an experience point of view, from a knowledge point of view. Then also, where did you want to be in a year's time, 2 years' time, 5 years' time? because that's where you see it. And what happens when things go wrong? How do you manage around that? And that's where you see so many partnerships fail, because they haven't discussed those things. And then when something goes wrong, everything just freezes, and paralysis is the worst thing for a business.
Back in the early days, we were bootstrapping, so whenever we travelled anywhere, went to a conference, or we'd have twin beds in the cheapest hotel kind of going, and you get to know each other. And with the team now, when we take them away, not every time, but we'll get an Airbnb and we'll live together during the trip, cook for each other, stay up late and kind of interact, and you get a different understanding and bond, I think, as a senior team when you can operate in that way. Not every business trip, obviously, but I think that again, it's part of our culture. We'll do that sort of thing, and some of it is respect and the legacy of where the firm has kind of grown from and come from, and then having that empathy and understanding that we're working with founders and business owners who are at that point today. So we do these small little things, probably subconsciously, but also intentionally, to ensure that the business and the team have a commercialism and understanding of the businesses and founders that we're working with day in, day out. It's more than just doing a VAT return or a set of accounts. Often we'll get phone calls, and we talk about the ups and downs, but when clients are going through an investment round, it's a lonely place, it's a stressful place, and we're there to help and reassure clients, and that's our role as accountants, as well as some tax planning or save you some money. It's kind of how do you support and help the founders and the team.
And do you ever look back, Jon, and think, if you hadn't met Dave, what would you still have done what you've done?
Yeah, I do reflect on that, and what would I have done? Would it have been successful? I think I would have still started off. I was committed. I remember lying on a sun lounger and I was like, I'm done with corporate. I was in my early 30s. I was literally looking forward 30 years thinking, if I continue to do this, it's not going to be me. So I needed in myself to do something different. So I would have done something. I don't know what it might not have even been an accountant's practice, to be honest. If it had been an accountant's practice, I probably wouldn't have been as bold. I'm a trained accountant and Dave isn't, and I think those two things coming together gave me the confidence, and the business the confidence to actually do things differently. We didn't want, I didn't want the practice to be the same as every, we talked about Dudgeon, Gibson, or Gibson, Dudgeon, and people saying,
how boring would that sound?
And when
Barley McGrew.
When we talked about that right at the start, we were like, it's obvious we're not going to call ourselves. We're not doing that. So I think the practice would have been different. It might have grown quicker. It might have flatlined quicker as well. Who knows?
I'm firmly of the opinion that we're both in a better place because of each other than we would have been. Yeah,
definitely.
Jon would probably have been a multi-billionaire doing something completely different.
No, I think we would have got to the same place, just probably been on a different journey as you'd expect. Yeah.
I mean, the podcast's about being fearless.
Yeah.
And you've obviously talked about you both took sort of quite fearless steps. Getting out of corporate, going into business with somebody who, yes, you did due diligence, but you didn't know each other. What do you think that fearlessness comes from? How have you used it to make the business better? I
think for me, it comes down to one word, and it's just curiosity. It's wanting to learn, it's wanting to develop, it's wanting to understand and do things differently. My friends, when I was younger, was like, I sometimes call them sheep because they would all dress the same and, do the same things. And I would be like, what are you doing that for? Just, do something differently. Even, I don't know, Newcastle in the 90s, everyone wore the same checky shirts, when they went out, and I didn't. So I've always wanted to challenge the status quo, and not massively, but a little bit.
Yeah, pushing the boundaries. I think, keep it fresh.
I'd say exactly the same thing. Curiosity is what we used to call a growth mindset back in the olden days, and the one thing me and Jon have both got is, have both had in terms of our early careers is, we've been sitting there with people more knowledgeable, more experienced than us. We've both been going, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Can I do that? Give me a go. What about this? What about that? And of course you get slapped around a little bit by some of the older people, senior people, but sooner or later you can kind of force yourself in and you grow your career and your own knowledge and experience that way. And it's that drive to take yourself out of your comfort zone and into that stretch zone. And, sometimes you want to retreat back in a bit, and sometimes it's right and proper to do that. But, constantly, how can I build on what I've got? And you need that. You need that to drive a business forward.
I think as well, I've got a bit of imposter syndrome, and you kind of want to box back.
It's human condition.
I think you should be out of that now. 16 years in, you've proven that your approach and your model works.
Yeah.
What's next for the business?
We've got a vision to grow, as most businesses do. I would say what's next is we want to build on the culture, and I've mentioned it a lot, but it's building on the culture, it's growing the team out, it's adding to the expertise and the depth of expertise that we can offer to the market and to clients, and continue to be ourselves. We want to remain independent. There's a lot of private equity activity within the sector currently. Strategically, we've made the decision that we're not going down that route. We get a knock on the door most weeks, and that's around the legacy of the business. We want to maintain that. We want to and respect for our client base and our team as well.
Okay. Yeah, and also obviously your competitors, fellow podcasters. Your podcast is called, in case anybody's listening wants to tune in.
Go on, Dave.
£2 of lager and a spreadsheet.
Who came up with that name?
I think it was probably me.
Yeah, I think it probably is. Yeah.
Why did you start a podcast? What was it for you?
We have so many interesting conversations every day with clients, with team members, with business champions, with random people at networking, and we just wanted to document that and share it, and hopefully others to take something away from it. I think initially it was okay. Even if the team listened to some of these conversations, they're gonna learn kind of so much from it. I think that was the seed.
I would agree. We know so many really interesting and inspirational people, and we have those conversations. But generally, it's kind of one-on-one, and most of the team don't hear that and see that, and then you try and get it through second hand, and it doesn't always work, and you don't always have that opportunity. So it was an opportunity for that. An opportunity really to bed in some relationships, some long-term relationships that we had as well, and finally it's just good fun.
So outside of Blu Sky, I presume you both have lives, and you find, Dave, you're probably, now you moved into a chairman role, you're probably finding more time to do stuff outside of the business. What sort of things are occupying your time?
I do. So I've got a property in the Canaries. I do some work when I'm out there, but about that much. So there we go. Around that, and that's I'm still trying to get out of holiday mode when we're there now. So trying to learn Spanish, not very well, and I've worked out that actually being in the Canaries, if you're learning kind of textbook Spanish, it's a bit like learning proper English and then ending up in Glasgow or Newcastle, West End or somewhere like that as well. It's not just the accents are different, but even some of the phrases are different. So you can only really learn by being there and trying it out and getting left out around that. Back in the UK, I do have a lot more time. I need to be able to manage my own time more effectively. So even when I'm not working, it's like, that means I don't have to check my email every half an hour, that kind of thing. So I put it down and move on. But I'm doing a lot of reading at the moment, and it's kind of really looking for something else to do. Sorry, Jon. I do a little bit of work for Northumberland Wildlife Trust, and I do some mentoring for Prince's Trust as well.
Sounds like you've got plenty to keep you busy.
One of the questions I'm getting asked a lot is, has Dave retired?
Has he?
No. So the selling the shares hasn't really been announced because, to be honest, it makes no difference to the team. It makes no difference to the clients because I'm still continuing in the role that I've been doing for the last 18 months anyway, and that'll stretch out into the future. So I'm involved in strategy. Obviously, I have a big role in the governance of the business. I do some internal mentoring as well with some of the seniors as well, and then I do some kind of relationship management stroke event attendance things wherever I'm instructed to go by Jon. Basically is where I attend. So I've still got plenty to do with Blu Sky, and that's not going to change in the short term.
I think that's really good though. It's that consistency thing, isn't it, for the team that you're talking about right at the start.
Yeah.
It's keeping the consistency that they don't feel like you just sort of
talked about succession planning as well, and the aim is that when I do go, it's going to be one of those bye type moments. It shouldn't matter because
should be ready for you. Right time for you, right time for the business, right time for the
absolutely
team.
Yeah, you can often, as a business owner, you can strategize and be at high level and then dip into the sort of detail. Mm-hmm. And I think you've weaned yourself off the detail.
Yeah, but the rest of the team have been very good at constructing barriers to say, just go away, Dave, it's nothing to do with you anymore. And yeah, fair enough, I've accepted that now.
Well, I mean, good on you, because it is a tough thing to do for a founder to step back and not to to resist the urge to get stuck back in on all sorts of different levels.
With a really, really good team that I trust, and to me, it's all about the outcomes. How they get there, totally up to them. Yeah.
Brilliant. What about you, Jon? You're a bit of a mountaineer, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, a lot of my time is with my family. I've got young children. We've embraced sport through football and rugby and gymnastics. So I love my weekends. I'm coaching a couple of the teams with the kids. Sophie's involved as well. So yeah, that part of my life is amazing currently for me. Personally, I'm climbing a mountain in 2 or 3 days' time in Morocco for a really good cause, the YMCA in North Shields, which is where the business has been for all that time. There's a few boundaries in my mind that I've got to get over, but that's the reason I'm doing it. I enjoy my bike riding, so get out with a good group of friends 2 or 3 times a year where we'll do some long trips. I think as well, as a business owner, your personal life and your business life are wedded together, which I think is intentional for me, but as I've got older, I think it's important to give yourself time and some separation from work as well. So I do put a lot of effort into making sure that happens over the course of a week, a month, a year. I plan the year out and look at the challenges that I'm going to set myself.
That's very well organised. You've inspired me to be a bit more structured about how I approach things like that. I think when you have your own business, you do sort of just fit your own time around the business, but it's got to be better to have it where the focus isn't just on the business and fitting your personal time around it and trying to do it a bit the other way around in a way.
There's so much going on, and actually you do want to be flexible and fluid as well. It doesn't, you don't want it really rigid, but then if there's no planning, then years can pass you by, can't they?
Yeah, time does go very quickly, and it has today. It's flown over. So thank you very much for joining me on the podcast today. I hope that you have given some budding accountants some hope and some inspiration that there isn't just one way of being a professional.
Absolutely.
So thank you both very much.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed that.
Cheers, Jon.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed that episode of our podcast, Fear Less, Do More. If you did, then please follow or subscribe. If you enjoyed what we talked about in this episode, then you might enjoy this one here, which is also linked in the show notes. Thanks for listening.